Thanks for joining us for Session 5 of True North. One of the last things I touched on in the last episode of Session 4 is I was just about to get into the design of the moral code that we have as mankind that has been given to us by a lawgiver, which we postulate as God. And my next question, or my first question I have for you, is do you think, why do you suppose that we've turned our back on this lawgiver that has given us these laws that help maintain our society and that help promote freedom and all the other things we've talked about? Why suppose ye that we've turned our back on him so much?
Well, actually, you know, when you think about it, it's actually the Christians who have caused it. I'm sorry. What it is we had God's law. We had the Bible. And you know what we did? We just kept harping on the moral code of the Bible. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. We micromanaged everybody's life. But you know what we didn't do? We didn't explain why. I don't know, when I was a kid, Mommy used to, tell me what to do. I needed to know why. And what we need to do is we need to explain why. And you know why you need to explain why? Because of design. If I say to you, you shouldn't put sugar into your Maserati gas tank, that's a law, that's a rule. And you might remember that for a while, but you won't remember it unless you understand why. The sugar will mess up the engine, there'll be no way to save it. You got a $40,000 car, that's the end of it. So you got to know the reason why, and that's what Christianity did, generations ago. What did they call it, preaching? They told people, don't do this and don't do that, but they forgot to tell people why. There's a connection to it. Right. And then you know what, as you get into why, you explain the design. God has a reason for everything he does, and all the boundaries that he set. There's a reason for all of it. And you know what he wants us to do? Not only understand the boundary, but understand the reason why. It's called maturity. When you're a baby, you're being told what not to do. When you get older, you're told why you're not supposed to do it. And gradually you begin to mature to the point of design. Matter of fact, that's what's happened to our civilization. We've matured. We're no longer spiritual children anymore. We've discovered that the universe is intricately designed and there's a reason for everything. And now we need to relate it back, bring the Bible back on. But this time, let's teach the Bible sensibly. There's a passage in the Bible. It says something like, we should sing in the Spirit, but we should also sing with the understanding also. You gotta know what the Scripture says and understand it. Right. That's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. I mean, I think anybody would agree that Christians that identify as Christians that kind of have a very simpleton kind of understanding of things, they can kind of project that to people, and before you know it, people who aren't Christians can look at that and say like, wow, what a simple, ideology for such a complex world. But that brings me to my next question, which is, in the Bible we see a lot of the phrase like, thus saith the Lord. Right. That he's, in some instances of Scripture he is very commanding, but of course he does so for a reason. Why do you think those passages exist, right? Because there has to be a coalescence between commands and why he's giving them.
Much of the thus saith the Lord is 3,000 years old. He took people that were slaves. They were illiterate. They had no education. He took them from Egypt, went to the desert, took them to Mount Sinai, gave them the law. Do you think he could explain it to them? They didn't have any science. They had no diagnostic skills. They didn't even hardly have language. They could hardly write. Moses could write. So you're taking illiterate people. So he says, thus saith the Lord. Here's the rules. And he said, here's the rules. You guys walk by them, and gradually, you know what you're going to discover? The rules work. You're going to be the healthiest, most prosperous people on the planet. And then what happens is, as they grew up, they begin to understand why. And we now, we're at the end of the age. We understand why he gave the rules. Just got to remember that God is like a parent. He tells his little baby, don't touch the hot stove. Thus saith the Lord. But it doesn't remain like that. Gradually, the little child begins to understand. And that's the part we never did. You know what? We've been talking down to people. And I'm fed up with it, frankly. I think Canadian people are very well educated. They're extremely smart. And they can even take material like this and chew it up and come out with it. We got an intelligent population that needs to be now told why.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to the point that you and I have talked about in our own private sessions, that you have come up with a premise. You've come up with a theory about what is wrong and what is good. And would you mind explaining that to us about the principles of design and how it relates to morality?
I didn't come up with it. I discovered it from years of research. Just like Einstein did not invent relativity, he discovered it. Newton didn't invent gravity, he discovered it. Well, all my years of studying, I suddenly realized all this moralizing, every religion pointing fingers at each other. It's much easier to look at it all from design. And so what I did is I just kept working with it, and I came up with a definition of how right and wrong works. And I'm going to throw it at you, and you guys got to chew it up. Any choice or action in harmony with design is good, right, or true. Any choice or action contrary to design is bad, wrong, or false. And when I mean design, of course, I'm talking about actual human design, but I'm talking about God's design. So let's do it again. Any choice or action in harmony with God's design is good, right, or true. And any action or contrary to God's design is bad, wrong, or false. We got a whole generation of people running around saying, oh, there's no longer any good or bad. It's wrong to say things are bad.
Moral relativism.
That's ridiculous. Matter of fact, God gave, you know what the mandate he gave the government? God gave, all government is supposed to encourage good and suppress evil.
Yes. To punish evildoers
That's
and
right.
to protect its people.
Yeah. And when the government can't tell right from wrong anymore, they're no longer governing. And society becomes chaotic. And that's exactly what's happening now. Our society is becoming chaotic. We're living in fear. You can't leave your children playing on the lawn. Some pedophile will grab them. You can't walk the streets. A girl can't walk the streets at night anymore. You know why? Because our society no longer has any boundaries. So we need to get back to design. What did I say? Any choice or action in harmony with design is good, right, or true. That includes what you wear and how you act and how you talk. Any choice or action contrary to design is bad, wrong, or false. And I discovered this about a year ago, and I've been plugging it into everything I've been doing, and it works for everything from upholstery to cars.
It does. It really does. Ever since you've told it to me, it's been bouncing around in my brain too, about just identifying what is successful and what works versus what is what doesn't work, frankly, at all. And so I really appreciate you giving us that insight, because it's...
You know who I got it from?
Who?
Jesus Christ.
There you go.
You know what he said? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And when you get a basic truth like this one and you start to apply it, suddenly you have a whole new freedom that you never had before.
Mm-hmm. And there really is real lasting freedom that comes to doing things right.
Absolutely.
And to doing things in harmony with design. And I think this is a good stopping point for this session.
We can go on and on.
We surely can.
Oh, yeah.
So the next session, I think, would be a good opportunity to talk about the contrary aspect of design and what happens when you disobey design and what happens, okay? So thank you so much for joining us for Session 5 of True North. I hope you stick around. There's 2 sessions remaining, so please stick with us. Thank you very much.